You know that feeling? Stepping into a place you've only dreamed of, a place that seems, well, impossible, hitting just out of sight.
Oh yeah, that sudden rush when the world you thought you knew just cracks open, reveals something totally extraordinary underneath.
It is a powerful sensation, isn't it? That moment of crossing a threshold.
Definitely taps into that basic human curiosity about what's just beyond the known,
Right.
what's over the horizon.
Exactly. And that's precisely the feeling we're diving into today. We're kicking off a real deep dive into the very, very beginning of a world-famous wizarding saga.
Right, and we're using a specific set of sources, excerpts, notes, little glimpses that give us these, well, really revealing snapshots into its foundational years.
Think of these sources not as the whole sprawling story, but more like highly detailed photographs of key moments.
Spot on. They give us crucial character intros, the first hints of the big mysteries, all drawn directly from the first few school years of this massive adventure.
So our mission here is pretty clear. We want to pull out the most compelling insights from these specific sources, understand who the key early players are,
Pinpoint the crucial plot points these snippets highlight, and really get a grip on how the whole story starts, how the stakes are set right from the get-go.
Yeah, this deep dive is basically your shortcut, a way for you to get really well informed about the absolute starting point of this whole epic tale based on what these materials show us.
And even just in these early years looking at the sources, the ground we cover is pretty huge. We go from this street obsessed with being normal,
Painfully normal.
painfully normal, exactly, navigate through hidden magical spots and land up in this vast ancient castle where, the impossible is just Tuesday.
And along the way, we're going to meet some genuinely strange creatures, start pulling back layers on some dark secrets, and encounter a whole mix of people, some remarkable, some, well, less so.
Definitely less so sometimes.
So let's follow the path these sources lay out. Let's really unpack the beginning, starting right there, year one, the Sorcerer's Stone.
Okay, year one. The source material hits us immediately with this stark contrast, the mundane versus the magical. It grounds us right on Privet Drive with the Dursleys.
Ah, the Dursleys. Yeah, the sources describe them from the outset as just consumed by this need to be perfectly normal. Thank you very much.
It's not just a preference, is it? It feels like their entire identity revolves around it. It's the absolute core of who they are.
And the biggest threat to that carefully built normality? Their secret, the Potters. The sources mention Mrs. Potter was Mrs. Dursley's sister.
Right, someone they hadn't seen, hadn't mentioned in years, actively pretending she didn't exist because she and her husband were, what was the quote, as undursley-ish as it was possible to be.
Yeah, and they even knew the Potters had a son, but had never even seen him. Saw him as just another good reason for keeping the Potters away. It's cold.
This obsession with normality, this deep, almost physical fear of anything different, especially magic, it sets the whole stage. And onto that stage, the magical world makes its entrance.
And what an entrance. The sources contrast the Dursleys' rigidity so sharply with these two figures showing up on Privet Drive, Albus Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall.
And their arrival is just worlds apart from the Dursley reality. McGonagall first appears not even as a person, but as a cat. The source says she was still staring at him, Dumbledore, from the other end of the street.
While Dumbledore's rummaging in his cloak for this thing he calls a put-outer, looks like a silver cigarette lighter.
Right, but it's not just a lighter, it's magic. He uses it to extinguish 12 street lamps, click, 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 until the only lights left are the eyes of that cat.
It's such a simple action, but wow, it immediately shows the magical world's power. Subtle, almost effortless control over the ordinary reality the Dursleys cling to.
Exactly. It's a perfect visual metaphor, isn't it? Magic exists right alongside the mundane, totally unseen if you choose not to look.
In their conversation, the bits the source gives us quickly reveals the tragedy and the central mystery. Dumbledore bowing his head, McGonagall gasping.
They talk about Lily and James with real sorrow. But then the focus shifts to Harry. The source quotes them. They're saying he tried to kill the Potter's son, Harry, but he couldn't. He couldn't kill that little boy.
And boom, there it is. The absolute core mystery, right from page 1, basically. No explanation given immediately. No one knows why or how, but they're saying that when he couldn't kill Harry Potter, Voldemort's power somehow broke and that's why he's gone.
That single detail, Harry's survival, its direct link to the Dark Lord's fall, it establishes everything. The conflict, Harry's unique burden. Why did the most feared wizard fail against a baby? That question just hangs there.
Yet back inside number 4, the denial is absolute. The sources show Harry getting letters, specifically one addressed to his cupboard under the stairs.
That detail is just chilling, isn't it? Pinpointing his neglect so precisely.
And Uncle Vernon tries to dismiss it, burns it even, but Harry insists he saw the address. It highlights how desperately the Dursleys are trying to suppress who he is. Futile, really.
Completely futile. Because that call to the wizarding world, it's powerful, and it arrives, as you said, in a very large package.
Hagrid's arrival. Dramatic is an understatement. The source calls him simply a giant. His presence literally fills the Dursley house, squeezing through the door.
And his immediate recognition of Harry, "The last time I saw you, you was only a baby." Then noting he looks like his dad, but has his mom's eyes.
It instantly connects Harry to those magical parents the Dursleys tried so hard to erase. It's this powerful moment of validation for him, you imagine.
Absolutely. And the journey Hagrid takes him on is Harry's first real taste of, well, freedom and just the sheer wonder of this hidden world.
The source describes their trip to London so well, highlighting Hagrid's slight awkwardness with Muggle stuff, getting stuck in the ticket barrier.
Complaining about the small seats, the slow trains, finally saying, "I don't know how the Muggles manage without magic." It really underscores the huge gap between the worlds.
But it also shows Harry's initial hesitation, right? He sees an ordinary street full of ordinary people and wonders if it's all some big trick.
Yeah, a trick the Dursleys cooked up. But the source notes, despite how unbelievable it all is, Harry couldn't help trusting him. That immediate bond with Hagrid, this representative of the magical world, is foundational.
And their destination, implied by all the school shopping they need to do, is Diagon Alley.
Right. The sources don't give us a full tour in these snippets, but the context wands, robes, books makes it clear this is the hidden magical high street, where wizards shop, another layer peeled back.
From there, the next huge step is actually getting to Hogwarts, which starts with the challenge of Platform 934.
Oh, that's a classic moment. Harry's confusion, asking the Muggle guard, who's clearly never heard of Hogwarts, and just gets annoyed.
Yeah, muttering about time wasters. It perfectly shows how separate and secret this world is. Even the train platform is hidden in plain sight.
And it's right there, on that platform, that Harry meets the Weasleys, which, as we know, sets up some of the most crucial friendships in his life.
Their introduction in the source is just so full of life, isn't it? Boisterous. A complete contrast to the Dursleys' repression.
Definitely. Percy, the oldest one there, already in his robes, very proud about being a prefect.
And Fred and George immediately teasing him about it. "You should have said something. We had no idea." Establishes their dynamic instantly. And they just sort of welcome Harry into their chaos.
It's a warmth he desperately needed. Then the journey itself on the Hogwarts Express. The sources paint it with these broad, lovely strokes, scenery changing to mountains and forests under a deep purple sky.
Heading north, then arriving, seeing that vast castle with many turrets and towers, perched on a mountain, windows sparkling in the starry sky. It sounds incredible.
And then crossing the lake in little boats with Hagrid booming, "No more than 4 to a boat." It really is a fairy tale entrance.
Pure magic. And then upon arrival, the Sorting Hat, introduced via a chapter title in the sources.
A key ritual. It's not just about putting kids in houses. It's about establishing loyalties, rivalries, the whole social structure of the school. A defining moment for everyone who goes there.
So inside the castle, the early days quickly show us the school structure and the conflict starting to bubble up. Dumbledore's start of term notices lay down the law.
Including that specific warning about the Forbidden Forest being off limits to all pupils.
With that little pointed look at the Weasley twins, wasn't it? Something like, "A few of our older students would do well to remember that as well." Clearly knows their reputation already.
Oh, definitely. And school life for Harry is immediately unique because of his fame. The sources mention the constant whispering, people staring, doubling back just to see him in his scar.
He's just trying to find his classes, navigate this huge, confusing castle, and he's basically a celebrity exhibit. Must have been overwhelming.
And we get introduced to some key figures in these early bits. Snape, very prominently. Harry has a nightmare about him almost immediately. Feels that instinctive dislike.
Yeah, that's set up very early. Then Professor McGonagall, strict but fair. And importantly, she's the one who spots his potential for Quidditch.
Right, finds him and introduces him to Oliver Wood, the Quidditch captain. And Wood gives that detailed rundown of the game.
All the balls, the quaffle for scoring, the dangerous bludgers, and that tiny golden snitch. Catch that, you get 150 points, usually win the game.
Explains the positions, chasers, beaters, the seeker. Mentions seekers get fouled a lot, and games can last for ages, the record being 3 months.
3 months. Okay, that really establishes Quidditch as this central, maybe slightly unhinged part of Hogwarts life.
Definitely. And you can't forget Peeves, the poltergeist. The sources just show him as a general pain. Love's annoying Filch the caretaker adds that layer of chaos.
So as things settle, the story starts layering in deeper mysteries hinted at in these sources, like the Gringotts connection.
Yeah, back to that first trip. The sources highlight Hagrid collecting that grubby little package from Vault 713, a vault emptied earlier that same day.
Right before thieves tried to break into it. Harry wonders later if that package was what they were after, if Hagrid got it just in time.
And he notes Hagrid definitely didn't meet Harry's eyes this time, adding to the mystery around what exactly was in that package.
And this mystery quickly ties into the suspicion around Snape. Harry just feels Snape is against him.
Then he overhears that conversation between Snape and Quirrell. That's a crucial piece. Snape asking about getting past Fluffy, the three-headed dog guarding the stone.
And Snape dismisses Quirrell's magic as hocus pocus. So Harry, with limited info, makes a leap.
A reasonable leap from his perspective.
Yeah.
It's the stone, Snape wants it, Quirrell's got some defenses Snape needs to break. Classic misdirection set up early.
And the reality of Fluffy becomes very, very real when Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Neville stumble into that forbidden corridor.
Right, trying to escape Filch after Malfoy sets them up for that midnight duel. And Peeves, annoyingly, sort of helps them evade Filch.
Only to steer them right into the path of a giant three-headed dog. Great help, Peeves.
These early challenges, though, they're not just plot devices. They're how these friendships get forged, and moments of self-discovery happen.
That midnight duel set up by Malfoy. Hermione tries to stop them, worrying about losing house points. That's so Hermione.
Classic Hermione. Neville joins them, terrified but loyal. Getting caught is bad, but it leads them straight to Fluffy. High stakes suddenly.
And the consequences hit hard. McGonagall takes 50 points each, 150 points gone from Gryffindor.
The source says Harry felt as though the bottom had dropped out of his stomach. Sees their house in last place. Feels deeply ashamed. That lesson lands.
But it's not all stress. The sources show warmth, too. Christmas at Hogwarts sounds amazing. The Great Hall looking spectacular.
Holly, mistletoe, 12 huge Christmas trees, some sparkling, some with candles. Just sounds magical.
And there's that small moment of Harry and Hagrid getting the last tree together, a quiet connection.
And Hagrid just bluntly confirming Harry's feelings. Hates them both, Malfoy and Snape. No messing about.
Then there's the Mirror of Arised. That's a truly profound moment in these early sources. Harry finds it, looks in.
And sees his parents, his whole family, not ghosts, but alive, beamed at the sight of him, surrounded by others, all smiling.
He whispers to Ron, look at them all. There are loads of them. But Ron looks and just sees himself, older, successful, head boy, Quidditch captain.
That contrast is just heartbreaking. It perfectly shows Harry's deepest desire. Not fame, not glory, just family. The family he lost.
The sources also give us glimpses of darker encounters, foreshadowing bigger threats. The Forbidden Forest, forbidden for a reason, clearly.
Hagrid takes Harry, Hermione, and Malfoy in detention into the forest, looking for whatever's hurting the unicorns. They hear hooves. Hagrid thinks it's the killer.
And Harry feels like they were being watched. Then they see red sparks trouble for the others Hagrid sent out. The tension builds.
And culminates in that chilling encounter. The cloaked figure over a fallen unicorn, drinking its blood. It's horrific.
Malfoy just screams and runs. The figure looks up, sees Harry, unicorn blood dribbling down its front, moves towards him.
Harry's frozen. Then this intense pain in his scar, as though his scar were on fire. He's helpless.
Until something jumped clean over Harry, charging at the figure. Implied to be a centaur saving him. That's his first real proximity to the evil that marked him, isn't it?
A terrifyingly close call. And related to his safety, there's that mention later of finding his invisibility cloak, folded under his sheets.
With that note, just in case. The source reminds us he used it earlier for the duel, finding the mirror. Hints at its protective role and adds to the mystery of who's looking out for him.
So all this builds towards the year-end climax. Exams are happening despite everything. McGonagall insists Dumbledore wants the school running as normally as possible.
Harry's struggling with the practical exam, trying to turn rabbits into slippers, feeling like none of this is useful for the real danger.
Then Hermione gets caught trying to follow Snape. Makes an excuse. Harry sees this, and the source says, that's it then, his eyes glittering. He realizes he has to act. About the stone.
And there's that poignant scene with Hagrid, found shaking with grief and remorse. crying because he thinks he revealed how to get past Fluffy.
Harry comforts him, saying Voldemort would have found out anyway. This is Voldemort we're talking about.
Yeah.
Which leads to that powerful moment.
Where Harry just yells, Voldemort. Shocks Hagrid. Harry says, I've met him and I'm calling him by his name. That's a huge step for him, confronting it directly.
It really is. And the resolution snippets confirm their success. They saved the stone. Hagrid says later, we saved the stone. It's gone. He can't use it.
The end-of-year feast sounds like pure relief. Everyone in pajamas. Hermione running to Harry, screaming, you solved it! You solved it!
Justin Finch-Fletchley apologizing for suspecting him. Hagrid giving them those huge cuffings on the back. The immediate threat is gone, for now. Harry's place is cemented.
Right. So with year one's foundation solid, we move into year two, the Chamber of Secrets. The sources immediately signal, okay, Harry's difficult relationship with the Muggle world continues, but now we get new mysteries rooted in history, and that uncomfortable theme of prejudice really comes forward.
Yeah, that pattern of a terrible summer. It continues, described as almost as bad as the last one. No word from friends for 5 weeks.
The only small mercy is letting Hedwig out at night, but only because she makes such a racket if she's locked up. We see him trying to be normal, writing an essay on Wendelin the Weird.
But his re-entry into the magical world this year is anything but normal. He accidentally ends up in Nocturne Alley using the Flu Network.
And this place is not Diagon Alley. The source calls it a dingy alleyway. Shops full of dark art stuff. Borgin and Burke's is the biggest, with shrunken heads and gigantic black spiders in the window.
Shabby wizards watching him. Harry feels jumpy, holding his broken glasses together. It's a quick, sharp intro to the darker side of things.
And inside Borgin and Burke's, he overhears that key conversation. Lucius Malfoy and Draco.
Lucius described with that pale, pointed face and identical cold gray eyes. Just screams cold aristocracy, doesn't it?
Totally. Draco's whining about wanting a racing broom, complaining Harry only got his Nimbus because of special permission from Dumbledore, saying Harry's not even that good, it's just because he's famous.
Ouch. And Lucius's chilling line to Draco, touch nothing, before he leaves. It establishes the Malfoys. Wealth, influence, and that deep-seated antagonism.
Getting back to Hogwarts involves that implied flying car mess. Afterwards, the source shows Harry arguing with McGonagall about points.
Saying term hadn't started yet. She gives them detention, but no points lost. And Harry sees her almost smile. A tiny glimpse of her fairness under the strictness.
Then the new defense against the dark arts teacher, Gilderoy Lockhart.
Boy, the book list requiring all his books. Fred Weasley's dry comment. The teacher must be a fan bed, it's a witch.
Lockhart's portrayed as just incredibly flamboyant, obsessed with himself, posing for photos with Colin Creevey, Harry wishing he knew a good vanishing spell, I bet.
His first-class intro is just as bad. Warning about foulest creatures, facing worst fears, then brings out a covered cage.
And Hermione, of course, knows exactly what's inside. Pixies. Earns Gryffindor 10 points. Highlights her smarts against his showmanship.
Visits to Hagrid's cabin give us those important insights into wizarding society. Ron's slug incident leads to that talk about blood status.
Ron calls dirty blood a disgusting thing to call someone. Notes most wizards are half-blood anyway. They have to marry muggles or they'd have died out.
And Hagrid passionately defends Hermione.
And they haven't invented a spell our Hermione can do.
Contrasting her talent with pureblood Neville's struggles in potions really highlights the prejudice theme.
Then there's Professor Binns, History of Magic. The source calls it the dullest subject, taught by a ghost who hasn't noticed he's dead.
Enters through the blackboard, routine hasn't changed ever. Even Hermione struggles to remember a story, maybe about Nicholas Flamel, shows how tedious it is, even with potentially cool history involved.
The main chamber mystery starts subtly. Whispers about Harry being Slytherin's heir after weird things happen. Justin Finch-Fletchley actually runs away from him.
Ron's reaction, people here will believe anything, captures the frustration, but shows suspicion is falling on Harry.
Discussing the attacks, Hermione gets analytical. Notices Dumbledore couldn't cure Mrs. Norris, the cat, leads her to think the attacker might not be well human. Logical deduction based on the evidence.
Quidditch brings more pressure. Wood tells Harry to catch the snitch fast, before Snape can favor Hufflepuff too much. George gets mad at Wood for pressuring Harry.
And during the match, Harry's targeted by that rogue bludger, has to deal with it himself, flying high, hearing laughter from below Malfoy, surely, shows the danger ramping up.
Then the huge introduction. Dobby the house elf appears in Harry's room. This is pivotal.
Dobby calls Harry vital to the lowly, the enslaved wee dregs of the magical world. remembers Voldemort's time when house elves were treated like vermin, says life improved since Harry won, sees him as a beacon of hope, introduces the whole house elf concept and their status.
Then the warning. Terrible things are to happen. History is to repeat itself. The Chamber of Secrets is open once more. Dobby admits he tried to stop Harry coming back, blocking the train, breaking his arm, thinking it was for his own safety.
Wow. So the question becomes, what is attacking? Hermione suggests invisibility, chameleon ghouls maybe.
Ron's response is classic Ron. Tells her she read too much, but also notes wryly that Dobby trying to save Harry might actually kill him. Shows their dynamic perfectly.
The sources also capture Hagrid's arrest, linking it straight back to the Malfoys, that Daily Prophet clipping about Arthur Weasley's fine for the car.
And Lucius Malfoy calling for his resignation, slamming the Muggle Protection Act. Then Hagrid's taken away. Dumbledore tells him he doesn't think Harry did it. Hagrid looks embarrassed.
And Lockhart is just smug about it, thinks Hagrid was no good, believes the case is closed, shows the political pressure and prejudice at play. Harry's furious.
Unlocking the past becomes key. Harry finds Tom Riddle's diary. The source implies some connection maybe to a badge or Lockhart, but doesn't state it.
He interacts with it, sees that memory. Riddle asking Headmaster Dippet to stay at Hogwarts over summer. Dippet refuses because of all these attacks. The death of that poor little girl, fears the school might close. They're no nearer locating the source.
This reveals the chamber was opened before, decades ago. Someone was blamed. Crucial context. Then Harry realizes the diary's gone. Someone took it from his trunk.
Then the clue. Follow the spiders. The source describes Harry and Ron going into the Forbidden Forest. Dark, dense trees, tough terrain, near blackness.
Fang's with them. They stop, find the spiders in their wan light. The source snippet stops there, but it captures the suspense of following that bizarre clue. Leads to Aragog, obviously.
Finding the entrance itself happens in Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. Harry spots that tiny snake scratched on the side of one of the copper taps.
Myrtle says that tap never worked. Ron connects the dots, Parseltongue, tells Harry to say something.
Harry struggles, thinks it only works on real snakes, but stares at the engraving, trying to imagine it was real, implying his ability kicks in and opens it.
The descent into the chamber sounds properly creepy. Long corridor, circular room, serpentine columns, that odd greenish gloom, darkness above.
Chills silence. Harry's heart pounding, thinking about the basilisk, about Ginny. Moving forward carefully, wand out, footsteps echoing. Eyes narrowed, ready to shut them.
The stone snake's eyes seem to follow him. Thinks he sees one stir. Really builds the tension.
The sources give us snippets, hinting strongly at the resolution. Lucius Malfoy is there with Dumbledore afterwards. Asks if the attack stopped, culprit caught.
Dumbledore's reply is sharp. Yes, the same person as last time, Lucius. Names Voldemort, but adds, this time, acting through somebody else, by means of this diary.
Holds up the diary, the one with the hole through it, watching Malfoy closely, and Harry in this scene is watching Dobby.
Putting those pieces together, Malfoy's presence, Dumbledore's pointed words about the diary, Voldemort acting through someone, Harry watching Dobby, it strongly implies Malfoy planted that diary. Very strong implication.
The end of the year echoes year one's relief. Harry's weak but wants to go to the feast. Hermione should be awake. Dobby hugs him, sobbing. Harry Potter is greater by far than Dobby knew. Says farewell, disappears.
Harry goes to the feast in pajamas again. Hermione runs up screaming, "You solved it!" Justin apologizes. Hagrid arrives with the cuffs on the back. Harry saved the day again. Mystery closed.
Okay, turning the page. Year 3, Prisoner of Azkaban. The sources shift focus here. Threats coming more from outside and delving deeper into truths about Harry's past, his parents.
And, yeah, that dreadful summer pattern. Firmly established, almost as bad as the last one. Hedwig only let out because of the racket. Harry writing essays, Dudley snoring, mundane misery.
Until Aunt Marge visits. Uncle Vernon lays down the law. No mention of his abnormality. Pretend he goes to St. Brutus's secure center for incurably criminal boys.
Harry yells at that. Can you blame him? Aunt Marge herself sounds awful. Large, beefy, and purple-faced, mustache bulldog, calls Dudley Neffy Poo, shoves her suitcase at Harry. Just charming.
Her behavior is appalling. Criticizes Harry's upbringing, suggests beatings, calls him mentally subnormal. Harry copes by thinking about his broom care handbook. Clinging to magic.
Uncle Vernon tries to change the subject to an escaped prisoner. Significant foreshadowing right there.
The sources imply Harry bolts after the Marge incident. The inflation isn't detailed, but her visit triggers his departure, throws him out into a wider, now seemingly more dangerous wizarding world.
And on to the night bus. That surreal triple-decker purple bus meets Stan Shunpike, the conductor, and Ern, the driver. They're talking about the escapee, Sirius Black.
Stan calls Black a big supporter of, links him straight to Voldemort. Then Harry actually says Voldemort out loud.
And Stan and Ern completely freak out. You out of your tree, nearly crash the bus, establishes Black as this major, feared threat, and shows the lingering terror of Voldemort's name.
He gets taken to the leaky cauldron, meets Cornelius Fudge, the Minister of Magic. Fudge's reaction is weirdly low-key.
Awkward. Saying things like, circumstances change in the present climate. Asks, surely you don't want to be expelled. Harry's totally confused why the minister isn't punishing him for underage magic.
He senses something extremely odd going on. And he's right, this leniency is unusual. Suggests they're handling him with kid gloves because of Black.
Shopping in Diagon Alley this year, he sees the Firebolt. Top-of-the-line broom. Price on request. The source says he had never wanted anything as much.
Considers emptying his vault for it, even though he has the Nimbus. Goes back daily just to look at it. Relatable consumer desire, even in the magical world. He also gets supplies for new subjects, care of magical creatures, and divination.
Staying at the leaky cauldron before school sounds nice, though. Dinner with the Weasleys and Hermione. Tom the innkeeper putting tables together. Proper feast.
Fred and George stealing cakes already. Mr. Weasley explaining the ministry cars to King's Cross because they don't have one anymore. Says it's a favor from work. Ears going red. Hints at the awkwardness.
Twins teasing Percy about the HB flags on the cars. Humongous big head. It's a warm scene, but shadowed by that ministry involvement.
The journey in the ministry cars is very uneventful compared to the night bus. Shows the difference between chaotic magic and the ministry's version.
Cars sliding through impossible gaps, arriving early. Drivers saluting Mr. Weasley. Reinforces his position despite the recent trouble.
Back at Hogwarts, challenges start right on the train. Scenery gets wilder and darker. Clouds thickening. Sets the mood.
Crookshanks, Hermione's cat, is staring intently at Ron's pocket, where Scabbers the rat is. Foreshadowing Klaxon there.
Food cart witch arrives. Ron awkwardly asks if they should wake the sleeping guy in their compartment. Professor Lupin, gentle introduction.
Until Malfoy shows up with Crabbe and Goyle, taunting them. Potty and the Weasel insults Ron's dad about the gold from the fine, asks if his mom died of shock. Vicious.
Ron stands up. Lupin makes a noise. Malfoy backs off, intimidated, asks who Lupin is. Harry has to physically hold Ron back. The personal conflict is escalating.
Then the most chilling part of the journey. The Dementors. Train stops, goes cold. Harry feels like he's drowning in cold. Hears rushing water, then screaming, terrible, terrified, pleading screams.
Paralyzed. Thick white fog. Lupin drives it off, gives him chocolate. Are you all right? Harry feels sick, humiliated, because he collapsed, unlike the others.
He realizes no one else collapsed. No one else heard echoes of their dying parents. The source makes it explicit. It's his mother's voice, trying to protect him, and Voldemort's laughter before the murder.
Links the Dementors directly to his trauma. They feed on happiness, force you to relive the worst. The nightmares of clammy, rotted hands stick with him. Awful.
This year brings two new teachers. Professor Lupin for defense, Professor Trelawney for divination. Very different styles.
Trelawney reads Harry's tea leaves, sees a falcon, a deadly enemy. Hermione whispers, everyone knows about Harry and you know who. Trelawney glares, sets up Hermione's skepticism.
Lupin's classes, though, are a hit. Dean Thomas says boldly, he's the best defense against the dark arts teacher we've ever had. Class murmurs agreement.
Snape, substituting when Lupin's ill, is dismissive. Thinks Lupin's too easy on them. Flips the textbook to advance stuff out of spite. Classic Snape.
Lupin teaches about Boggart's fear shifters. Tells them to think of their fear, make it funny with a charm. Harry thinks Voldemort, but what comes out? A Dementor. Direct result of the train.
During that lesson, the wardrobe with the Boggart wobbles violently when Harry approaches. When it's his turn, he collapses again, facing the Dementor Boggart.
Lupin gives him chocolate, says the countercharm is ridiculously advanced, shouldn't have suggested it. But Harry insists on trying again. Needs to overcome this fear.
Leads to Lupin agreeing to teach him the Patronus charm privately. Needs a strong, happy memory. Harry also asks Lupin if he knew Sirius Black. Lupin says yes, friends at Hogwarts. Another layer to Lupin.
As the year goes on, truths and betrayals start emerging. Hogsmeade visits are allowed, but Harry can't go. No permission form signed by the Dursleys.
Asks McGonagall. She just looks at him over her glasses, says nothing, no exceptions. Ron's angry for him. Hermione says, it's all for the best, given the danger. Harry feels left out.
Hagrid's the new Care of Magical Creatures teacher. They're thrilled for him, know how much it means after his expulsion, knowing they cleared his name last year.
At the feast, Hagrid's overcome with emotion, buries his face in his napkin, shows how much this matters to him.
The plot thickens. Malfoy taunts Harry about Black, implies Harry's a coward for not seeking revenge himself. Harry's furious.
Harry feels worse by far after talking to Lupin, implied to be about Black and his parents, adds emotional weight. Ron blames himself for persuading Harry to sneak out somewhere they shouldn't have.
They get caught sneaking back. See Hermione. Harry knows she had heard what had happened. Conflict within the trio now, too.
Then that chilling moment in divination. Trelawney goes into a real trance, eyes unfocused, voice loud, harsh, delivers the prophecy.
It will happen tonight. The Dark Lord is alone. His servant, chained these 12 years, will break free before midnight, rejoin his master. The Dark Lord will rise again, greater and more terrible.
Ron whispers, stunned. It's her first real prediction. They recognize its weight immediately, points directly to tonight's events, and Black's accomplice.
Then the tragic fate of Buckbeak. The sources depict them under the invisibility cloak near Hagrid's garden after the prophecy. Hear voices, silence, then the unmistakable swish and thud of an axe.
Hermione sways, whispers, "They did it! I don't believe it!" Confirms Buckbeak's execution, ordered by the Ministry, pushed by Malfoy. Horrible.
The Shrieking Shack confrontation's where it all comes out. Lupin confronts them, saw them on a Marauder's map, thought it was broken, saw Harry with no one, then saw Sirius Black's dot.
Watched Black collide with them, pull two of you into the Whomping Willow. Ron insists one of us. Lupin corrects two of you, looking right at Ron, confirming Pettigrew with scabbers in Ron's pocket. Mind blown.
Lupin's own secret comes out, too. Hermione challenges him about being a werewolf, the danger. Lupin admits the thought still haunts me, acknowledges near misses.
Felt guilty betraying Dumbledore's trust, but reveals Dumbledore didn't know he led 3 friends to become illegal animagi. Says plainly, I haven't changed. Owns his nature, his past mistakes.
Snape arrives. The source shows intense hatred between him and Black. Hard for Harry to know who to trust. Ron's holding the struggling Scabbers.
Hermione tries reasoning with Snape. He snaps back. She's facing suspension. They're out of bounds with a murderer and a werewolf. Hold your tongue. His bias against Black is blinding.
The aftermath in the hospital wing. Harry's groggy. Fudge, Dumbledore, Snape are there. Dumbledore notes Harry was foolish, but is amazed the Dementors retreated. Asks Snape why implying Harry's Patronus was powerful.
Fudge is just focused on meeting the Dementors. Snape whispers to Dumbledore, questioning if he believes Black, reminds him Black tried to kill him at 16. That old grudge. Dumbledore insists on speaking to Harry and Hermione alone. He believes them.
The resolution is saving Sirius. Harry and Hermione are outside the hospital wing, under the cloak. Implied time turner use. Harry's anxious, watching the sky, waiting for the moon. Lupin's change.
Hermione insists they stay put, mustn't be seen. Nothing we can do yet. Harry's frustrated, just gonna let Pettigrew escape all over again.
Hermione reminds him, we came back to help Sirius. We're not supposed to be doing anything else. Focuses them on the mission. Correcting the injustice to Sirius.
Success. They return to the hospital wing. Dumbledore's beaming. Harry says, we did it. Sirius is gone on Buckbeak. Dumbledore says, well done, covers for them, tells them to get inside, locks them in.
They slip back in. Ron's still out cold. Hermione tucks the implied time turner away. They did it. Changed the outcome. Saved Sirius and Buckbeak.
The end of year 3 is relief, but with lingering shadows. On the train home, Ron talks about calling his dad. Hermione explains telephones, suggests Muggle studies. Ron's actually interested.
Ron invites Harry for summer to the Quidditch World Cup. Says his dad can get tickets. This cheers Harry right up. Thinks the Dursleys might agree, especially after what I did to Aunt Marge. Maybe that incident had an upside.
They play Exploding Snap. Harry buys a huge lunch, but pointedly, nothing with chocolate in it. The Dementors left a mark.
Finally, year 4, Goblet of Fire. The sources here give us glimpses of a much wider world and mostly hint at the year's events through chapter titles. It feels like an escalation.
Definitely. The opening scene provided jumps right out of Harry's perspective. We're in a pub in Little Hangleton, a Muggle village.
Villagers discussing the old Riddle murders. Still convinced Frank Bryce the gardener did it. Nasty look. War turned him funny. Horrible temper. Local gossip hardened into fact.
Then we see Frank at the police station, insisting he's innocent. Saw only a teenage boy, a stranger, dark-haired and pale near the house. But nobody else had seen a boy. Police think Frank invented him.
This scene, totally separate from Hogwarts initially, is huge. Connects directly to Voldemort's past, sets the stage for his return. shows the danger isn't just contained anymore.
Summer troubles continue briefly in the sources. An argument with Vernon when Harry mentions Owl Post. Vernon's outraged, calls magic unnaturalness. Face goes plum color, same old clash.
We also see the Weasleys' joke shop plans developing. Ron and Ginny laughing about Fred and George's Weasley's Wizard Wheezes, found order forms, fake wands. The twins are serious. Hermione, predictably, didn't laugh.
Shows that entrepreneurial spirit adds detail to the magical world. And the Quidditch World Cup, mentioned last year, is confirmed.
Ron invites Harry specifically to go. His dad can get tickets. This promises Harry a look at the international magical community. Big step up from just Hogwarts.
But the main preview of Year 4 comes from that list of chapter titles in the sources. They act like signposts for a much bigger, darker year.
Let's run through them. The Dark Mark. Mayhem at the Ministry. Aboard the Hogwarts Express. The Triwizard Tournament. Mad-Eye Moody. The Unforgivable Curses. Beauxbatons and Durmstrang. The Goblet of Fire. The Four Champions. The Weighing of the Wands. The Hungarian Horntail. The First Task. The House Elf Liberation Front. The Unexpected Task. The Yule Ball. Rita Skeeter's Scoop.
Okay, just reading those titles tells you a lot. The Dark Mark, that immediately signals Death Eaters, Voldemort's followers being active.
Mayhem at the Ministry suggests trouble in the government. The Triwizard Tournament and Beauxbatons and Durmstrang. Clearly a big international competition meeting other schools.
Mad-Eye Moody sounds like a new, probably intense defense teacher. The Unforgivable Curses, wow, that implies they're actually discussing or teaching these darkest spells. Huge escalation.
Then you have the tournament structure. Goblet of Fire. Four Champions. Weighing of the Wands. First Task. Specifically mentioning the Hungarian Horntail Dragon. Danger levels definitely rising.
The Yule Ball suggests a big social event, maybe some teen drama alongside the danger. The House Elf Liberation Front brings back Dobby's cause, suggesting it's becoming a bigger issue.
And Rita Skeeter's Scoop introduces the media. Likely intrusive, sensationalist, Harry's life under a public microscope.
So yeah, taken together, these titles paint a picture of Year 4, broadening the world massively, ramping up the danger, introducing darker magic, international elements, and intense public scrutiny. Sets the stage for major conflict.
So looking back across these sources for the first 4 years, it's quite a journey. From Harry discovering who he is, entering this hidden world,
through facing those early threats contained within Hogwarts, the stone, the chamber,
to grappling with deeper personal stuff, the Dementors, the truth about Sirius and Pettigrew.
And finally, these hints in Year 4 of a much bigger stage, international magic, and significantly higher stakes.
And the themes these sources highlight keep recurring, don't they? That clash between Muggle and Wizarding worlds, the absolute necessity of friendship and loyalty.
The constant struggle against dark forces, overcoming fear, both internal and external. And critically, that theme of hidden truths constantly being revealed.
Harry's identity, Snape's motives, Riddle's diary, the Sirius Pettigrew deception, it's woven all the way through. Appearances are definitely deceiving in this world.
It really is striking. Harry's journey learning, discovering, piecing things together in this complex, confusing world. It mirrors how you feel when you dive deep into something new and layered, doesn't it?
Absolutely. These sources, giving us these fragments, really underscore how important it is to look closely, question assumptions, and patiently piece together the bigger picture.
Which brings us back to that recurring theme of hidden information, mistaken identity, the slow reveal of truth. Snape Quirrell, the diary, Sirius Pettigrew, Dumbledore's secrets, Trelawney's prophecies. It's everywhere.
It really is.
Yeah.
So maybe the final thought to leave you with as you process all this is this.
How much of what we think we know about people, about events, maybe even about the systems around us, is just the surface layer? What crucial truths might be hidden just beneath, waiting for someone curious enough or maybe brave enough to look closer, ask the hard questions, and connect the dots?